to the 2024 Stanley Cup odds. The Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top-end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in net. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on...
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Game Time Decisions. In for Kevin Walsh, I am Adam Kaufman. We got you for the next couple hours with a slew of great guests and certainly SportsGrid regulars on the way. I'm talking Brady Cannon, George Kurtz, Dave Sharapan. We got Joe Madden. We're going to have Mark Zinno. I mean, it is an electric list, and there's very little that we are not going to cover. But most of the emphasis tonight, we'll sprinkle in a little bit of the NFL draft in the wake of that over the weekend. It is, after all, Monday. Brand new week. Maybe you went away for the weekend. Maybe you weren't as tapped in. Maybe, heaven forbid, you weren't betting it, and you just want to know who's good, who improved, who are the winners, who are the losers, what do the futures odds look like. If we have some time, we'll mix some of that in. But we are going to be heavy on the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and Major League Baseball with a healthy slate on the diamond tonight. And unlike what has been happening in recent days, not that I don't absolutely love me some afternoon baseball because it gives us things to bet on during the day. I was relegated to betting on tennis today, but largely that was successful, so I'm not complaining. It is nice when everything is happening at once, and a lot of it is going to get started in the next hour or so while we are on here, and then, of course, throughout the show and even later on after into the evening. So we will give you best bets, tell you where to throw your money around, and hopefully at the end of the day, as my feeling is, and especially, me being a volume bettor, as I've talked about on these shows in the past, just betting on this, that, and everything else, it's just about being green at the end of the day. We want to have as many winning slips as possible and consider the day a success if it is profitable. Let's start really with the playoffs. That's the most important thing. We're on the cusp of May here. It's late April, and so we only have ourselves another month and a half, almost 2 months of playoff basketball and hockey, which means after that, it's going to be all baseball and tennis and some UFC and golf. And I don't know, do people still bet on marble races and darts? I'm not sure. But it's all about the chase for the championship and hoisting a banner and raising a trophy, that Larry O'Brien trophy, of course, Lord Stanley's Cup, and which teams are most equipped to do it. And I don't know if this is just kind of a controversial take to get us started here, but the playoffs have sort of sucked so far. Producer Sam, it has not been good. It's not been good at all. I mean, let's flash Let's start in the NBA. Let's show the people the bracket and what we are looking at so far. So there you go. You have yourself a Timberwolves embarrassment of the Suns. I took Minnesota lightly. No question about that. I took them for granted. I thought Phoenix was going to win that series, let alone not even put up a fight. So 4-0 Minnesota moves on. Elsewhere, you had obviously we've got a collection of teams that have jumped ahead 3-0 in their respective series. The Lakers, who play later on tonight, staved off elimination the other nights. They're down 3-1 to the Nuggets. They're going to lose. Denver, the defending champs, going to advance. OKC, youngest team on the bracket and just decimating a somewhat injury-plagued Pelican squad. But again, New Orleans not even putting up a fight. The only legitimate series that we have in the Western Conference features the Clippers, because they can't rely on Kawhi Leonard to be on the floor, and the Dallas Mavericks. That one is tied at 2. Over in the East, it's been almost equally as bad. You have the Celtics, who play tonight, and expect them to win this thing probably in 5. I realize some people looked at Miami winning game 2, despite being a heavy dog, and there's no Jimmy Butler, there's no Terry Rozier, the team is, the ghost of Max Strus, right? Miami went out and hit threes, hit shots at an historic rate. They hit like 55% of their three-pointers. Allow me to be the latest to tell you, because I can't be the first, the latest to tell you that that is not going to happen again. It's just not. It's not. Miami is not going to shoot at an historic rate against Boston. I know Jimmy Butler's done the whole, like joking on social media, don't let us get one and don't count us out. My guys you're not coming back, man. Jimmy Butler, if the Celtics, as electric as they were in the regular season, if they were up 2-1 in this series, but you had Jimmy Butler waiting in the wings, potentially returning at some point in time, Boston continued to play with its food, then sure, I would get a little bit nervous. But Butler's not returning, and Rozier probably isn't either. This just comes down to talent. And in the NBA, in the NHL, you can see a team that is riding a hot goaltender or is less talented but just working best as a unit. Hot power play, hot penalty kill, special teams are incredible. Whatever it is, you can see in the NHL, it's not that rare that an 8 seed goes on a run, for instance. In the NBA, and I know this Miami team, although it was not this Miami team, went from an 8 in the East to upset teams along the way, starting with the Bucks, who are going to go down again to the Pacers, by the way, because there's no Giannis. Dame is injured now. Forget it. Milwaukee. Doc Rivers is blame free in this thing. He is so excited, I'm sure. But this Bucks team is going to go down. Sixers are going to go down to the Knicks, a couple of lopsided series again. And so I don't know who is getting in the Celtics' way in the Eastern Conference until they get to the NBA Finals and inevitably face the Denver Nuggets. But so far, generally here in round 1, it has been a dud. I know you got Cleveland and Orlando. They're tied at 2, much like the Clippers and Mavericks out west. But honestly, who cares about these two teams? Orlando is just not ready, and Cleveland is too inconsistent. Neither one of them is going to win in the next round. And so in the NBA playoffs, we are looking at just, it feels like, again, inevitability. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it might be even worse in the NHL. Let's take a look at what that has brought us to at this point here in round 1. Again, generally, it has been pretty ugly in terms of what these standings look like. So you have in the West, Vegas, who plays later on. This is an upset in the making. I had Vegas as an 8 to beat the 1, the Dallas Stars, in this series. They're up 2-1, probably win tonight. Colorado having its way with the Winnipeg Jets up 3-1. Vancouver pounding Nashville up 3-1. Edmonton all over the Kings up 3-1. That's in the West. In the East, Panthers trying to do it again. I've got them on the money line, not only the money line, the 60-minute money line tonight. Regulation win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are up 3-1. The Bruins, I can't believe Toronto actually stole a game. Bruins are up 3-1 on the Maple Leafs. The Hurricanes, who, the Islanders and George Kurtz can join us in a little bit. I'm sure he would take exception to some of this, but the Isles don't belong. The Isles, I know this could be an even series. There's even an argument that New York could be leading this series. But let's be honest with ourselves. Carolina is a dramatically better team than what they've got going on in the island this year anyway. So that's 3-1 series right now. And of course, I didn't mention New York and Washington because it doesn't even bear mentioning. The Capitals have already gone out. Ovi and company didn't even put up a fight. 4-0 sweep. Chris Kreider and everybody else for the Rangers, the Blue Shirts, getting the job done. So we have lopsided series after lopsided series in both of these leagues, and especially in the NHL, in both conferences. I can only hope that in round 2 things improved as we get more competition and, of course, the better teams advancing. We shouldn't be at all surprised by largely anything that we have seen so far on the ice. But I want George on that when Kurtzy's going to join us in a little bit. And worthy of mentioning, again, we'll mix in a little NFL draft a bit later on, but Travis Kelce, who's got it better than him right now? He's dating the biggest musician maybe in history and definitely in today's age, in Taylor Swift. He has, won yet another Super Bowl, and now with a new contract and a guaranteed almost $20 million, he is the highest paid tight end in NFL history. I like the pandering, though, from the Chiefs Twitter account saying we have, given a new contract, I'm paraphrasing, given a new contract to the greatest tight end in NFL history. Chiefs, Kelce, forgive me. He is not even the best tight end in team history, let alone NFL history. Tony Gonzalez may have a thing to say about that. So we got a lot coming your way here during this show. It's going to be a lot of fun. George Kurt's going to join us when we come back. Talk a little baseball, a little hockey. Hopefully I didn't offend him or piss him off talking about the Isles, but we'll find out.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Drysdale could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Of course, if you're listening on SportsGrid Radio, channel 159, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, we thank you for that. We're going to be joined momentarily by our buddy George Kurtz and talk some baseball as well as some hockey. Again, we have got a healthy slate on the diamond tonight. Kurtzy, welcome into the show. Of course, you can get George on Twitter at George Kurtz. How are you, buddy?
Doing well, right? My Islanders stave off elimination. Yankees decide to destroy the Milwaukee Brewers pitching staff. And hey, Zeke Elliott's back with the Cowboys. What could possibly go wrong?
All is right in George's world. Let's begin here with baseball and your Yankees. You mentioned them taking on the Orioles tonight. It's an interesting matchup for sure. I mean, two teams, titans of the American League East, two clubs that have certainly been heavily respected when it comes to who is going to win this division. As we project ahead throughout the year, an Orioles team that has been very good at home, a Yankees team that has been even better on the road. Which way does this one play out?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting series. Now, listen, it's late April, boys and girls. This is not going to tell us much of anything here. It's a long season here, but it's an interesting series for a couple of reasons. The Orioles are going to get back Kyle Bradish and John Means during this series. Neither one's pitching tonight, but Thursday's slot is open. I expect one of them to start to pitch on Thursday. Maybe one pitches earlier in this series, or maybe one waits till the weekend here. But they're getting back two of their better starters here. So that's good for the Orioles here, right? They need starting pitching depth. The Yankees will be without Alex Verdugo, probably for the first 3 games of the series as he is on paternity leave. And no big loss, but Verdugo has been hitting for the Yankees. This also forced them to sort of put Trent Grisham in the line, who hasn't been all that great here. So interesting. Grayson Rodriguez goes against Clark Schmidt tonight. The pitching matchup definitely tells us Baltimore. The question is this, Adam. Do we believe what we saw in Milwaukee? The Yankees wrecked that staff. Just wrecked it, right? Have they broken out now? Is Judge back to being Aaron Judge? Rizzo back to being Anthony Rizzo? Curious tonight. Curious. That being said, Baltimore's the better team. I like the Orioles tonight.
For Grayson Rodriguez, I've seen a lot of people hopping on the over 5.5 strikeouts. Obviously, it's an opportunity for him against a lineup that is fully capable of striking out. We know that, but we haven't seen Rodriguez yet this year. I think one interesting bet with Schmidt, especially on the other side, as you noted, someone who I tend to like to go under on his strikeouts. On BetMGM, you can do a specific matchup bet. Don't worry about who's doing what with his over or under, but just who's going to have more strikeouts, Rodriguez or Schmidt. When I was looking at it earlier today, you can get the Rodriguez side of things at, I think it was minus 115. I mean, it was damn close to even money. That I would have looked at it and expected it to be minus 200. And so I'd be curious to know if that's something that you like when looking at this game. It's a bet that I've heavily considered making with this game starting in about 20 minutes.
Well, the Yankees do strike out a lot, right? All right, so it's hard not to like this. And I don't think they're going to beat up on Rodriguez where he's only going to go 3 1/3 innings, right? I expect him to go minimum 5+. So that's at least 15 outs, maybe between the 15 and 18 range there. The Orioles might want to protect that bullpen a little bit. Craig Kimbrell is probably not available tonight, so they might allow even Rodriguez to go a little longer here. Kimbrell, they're saying, calling it back tightness, but really he's been an adventure at closer, by the way. He doesn't look like he's nowhere near the Craig Kimbrell at all. So I like this bet. I think I might piggyback this bet with you.
Well, thank you. It means a lot coming from you, my friend. Let's take things to the ice because we'll do more baseball when you join us again a little bit later on this hour. We have 2 games happening on the ice tonight. A couple of, one lopsided series, of course, a closeout opportunity here for the Florida Panthers at home against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I already mentioned earlier, I not only took Florida on the money line, I took them on the 60-minute money line, the regulation win tonight, because you could get that at minus I think it's minus 120 now, pretty much across the board. Saw it at minus 115 earlier. There's just no or less value anyway in betting them to allow for the extra time win. It's certainly a possibility. I don't expect Tampa to just go lightly, but do you think Florida finishes the job here?
Now, listen, you can make a pretty strong argument here. You can say this about the Islanders and Carolina series, too, that it should be 2-2, right? It's sort of unfortunate for Tampa that it's only 3-1. I mean, let's face it. If Bobrovsky doesn't make that swim-saving move on Matt Dumba, we are 2-2 here, right? Instead, Verhaeghe won it in overtime there for Florida. That being said, yeah, I think Florida, it's at home, Game 5. They're going to be feeding up the crowd here. I think they want the extra rest, too. And you want to put Tampa Bay away as soon as you can. You don't want to lose tonight and go into Game 6 to Tampa. Then you're risking a Game 7 here where anything can happen here. Bobrovsky has played just really out of this world here. Vasilevsky, for the most part, has not. Kucherov has been good, but not great. So I think Florida does end it tonight. I kind of think this is a 1-goal game. That's really what I feel about this. 3-2. It's sort of like what happened in Vegas there. And I knew I bet the Vegas overtime the other night. Got it, right? Was it 2-2 or 3-3? If it was the same thing here, was it 3-2 or was it 4-3 here? I think we're going to get a more of a low-scoring game, 3-2, your final here. Florida moves on.
You mentioned Vegas, George. Let's go there. This is an opportunity for Vegas at home to go up 3-1. As we know, we've talked about it. There's, maybe no better home ice advantage than what exists out there in Nevada. This team has, of course, jumped out to, it was a 2-0 series lead. Dallas, was able to cut the deficit in half last time out. This is a 1-8 matchup where Dallas is the superior team in terms of seeding, but I liked Vegas coming into the series. I continue to like the Golden Knights to win it, the defending champs. But do we get a best of 3 after tonight?
Man, Dallas dominated that game the other night. That game should not have gone to overtime. All right. Thompson played out of his freaking mind, which is kind of ironic because, well, the game-winning goal, not so good. He pulled away from the post and got small. He made it too easy for them here. If Dallas plays that way again, they're going to win. They're going to tie this thing up. I think Dallas is the better team, but beating Vegas at home twice, I didn't see that. I thought they would go back to Dallas down 3-1. I'm going to stick with that. I'm not going to change my mind now. I think Vegas plays much better tonight, maybe game 2 at home. They won't be sort of relaxing as much here. I think they get the win. I think it's another close game, a little puck luck here and there, but I think we're going to go back to Dallas 3-1. So Vegas pulls out the win, but another close one tonight, but a little bit more high scoring. I'm going to go 4-3.
George, we only got you about 20 more seconds here. Is there a player prop in either of these games you like tonight?
I'm going to go with Matthew Tkachuk to score a goal. Anytime goal for Matthew Tkachuk.
All right, we're going to do a lot of baseball with George Kurtz. He's going to rejoin us a little bit later on this hour. When we come back, Mark Zinno will be on. We'll get into the NBA.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back here on Game Time Decisions. We are going to have Mark Zinno here with us in just a moment, talk through some NBA these next couple of segments. Of course, the playoffs roll on. There are 3 games happening tonight, as touched on just a little while ago. So the Celtics at the Heat, that one begins a little over an hour from now, even more than that, obviously, with these games never starting on time. Boston up 2-1 in that series. Thunder at the Pelicans, that is an 8:30 Eastern game, with OKC trying for the sweep in that one. Much respect to what SGA and company are doing. You know, what a star wants, what a star needs, right? And the Lakers at the Nuggets, 10 p.m. Eastern, Denver up 3-1 in that series. Will it be a LeBron night? Mark Zinno is here with us. You know him from SportsGrid. He's on all the time. I was on with him, as a matter of fact, on his show with Drew Martin last night. Mark, how are you, bud?
Adam, great to be with you as always. Exciting for another NBA playoff night here. You know, it's crazy because these 3 games a night are going to start to dwindle down very quickly within the next week, right? We're going to start to scatter these things out and spread them out, and you're only going to get 1 or 2 games a night, if that, as we start to draw out the NBA playoffs for some ungodly reason.
That makes me sad. You know, that's a real grinchy
Look,
little reminder of what's happening here, Mark.
And they're not going to crown a champion until the middle of June. Like
it's
the
nuts.
playoffs have started, we're not going to crown a champion until the middle of June.
Yeah, I don't know why. I other than I guess the whole like building availability angle, I don't know why you ever need 2 games between series in both NBA and NHL. I mean, it's not like these guys are flying commercial and have to stretch. Oh, they're uncomfortable. They're not eating well. I mean, this is 5-star everything across the board: flights, food, hotels. I mean, really, let's speed it up a little bit. You're right. I mean, this thing does not need to bleed into damn near July, but that's the way it goes each and every year. Tell you what, though, the Celtics would like a little time off. They'd like to make relatively quick work of the Miami Heat, see if they can get themselves a gentleman's sweep. But first, they need to go up 3-1. It's a 2-1 set in South Beach. Boston favored by 10.5 points. I have already bet the Celtics to cover in this game. I think the C's, at least as far as Miami goes, are done playing with their food, as we saw in Game 2. I don't believe we're going to get another historic performance, shooting-wise, especially from three-point range, out of the Miami Heat. What are your expectations in this one?
Well, I tend to agree with you. I mean, you have to ask the question, where does the Miami offense come from? Like, if they're not going to shoot 60% from the field and 55% from 3, where does the Miami offense come from? How do they generate it? So I lean in the same direction you do, that the Celtics should cover this number. What is interesting, and we talked a little bit about this last night, I still can't get over the fact that the Celtics are a team that averages 90 attempts per game during the regular season. In the 3 games against the Heat, they've taken 82, 80, and 82 attempts in the game. Like, if the Celtics really want to run away with this thing, I think that number needs to go up. They need to start pushing 85, 86, and from my math, as long as the Celtics make about 13 or 14 3-pointers, they should have no problem covering this number. This is a team that averaged 16.5 3-pointers per game during the regular season, by far the biggest number in the NBA. The last 2 games, they've hit 12 and 11, and that's been a problem for them. So if Boston has this regression, this positive regression to their regular shooting numbers during the regular season, they should be able to cover this number easily. And as all these series, Adam, have gone on deeper, we're starting to see a little bit more of the shooting numbers normalized to what they were during the regular season.
So Boston is, I'm looking at FanDuel right now. Boston is a minus, and I remind you, Mark, this is only a 2-1 series lead, but this speaks to obviously who these teams are and the talent gap between them. Boston is a minus 100,000 favorite to win this series. And I'm looking just to see, other than going game by game, obviously, if there is any sort of value from a series perspective to bet this thing. And there, unless you believe in Miami ever so slightly, there really isn't. And what I mean by that is, let's just say Boston continues to roll. You're like, yeah, I'm going to bet Boston in 5. Surely there's value in that, right? I'm giving you the correct score. Nope. Minus 430. Unless you believe that Miami is going to steal another one, be it Boston, again, lazily playing with its food, or the Heat are just that good on that night, absent Jimmy Butler, and then Boston figures it out and wins 4-2. You can get certainly a good number on that. That's plus 430. But what that tells you, obviously, and I don't need to educate you on this, the books are telling you Miami is done, dead right now.
Yeah, and by the fact that they keep posting a double-digit number here on the road, it's the same sort of inference that the books have no faith in Miami at this point, especially without Jimmy Butler.
Well, speaking of teams that have already effectively moved on, like the Boston Celtics, the Oklahoma City Thunder that punched that ticket. They're like Minnesota. It's done. We're going to talk about it when we come back with Zeno.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Kaufman, Zeno, back with you talking NBA playoffs. We have got the Thunder and the Pelicans tonight. Of course, there's no Zion Williamson, banged up for New Orleans, as has been the case. And the Thunder, despite their commercial with Chet and SGA pissing everybody off on social media on a nightly basis throughout these playoffs, the team is electric and a ton of fun to watch on the floor, I'll tell you that. And it blew my mind, Mark, when I was looking at the line for this game, because I realized back in game one, Oklahoma City squeaked by 2-point win. But since then, we have seen basically 2 20-point wins. And tonight, 4.5-point spread. And sure, it's in New Orleans, but please, 4.5 points? Is there any universe in which OKC does not close this thing out and get the sweep just like the Timberwolves did against the Suns last night?
Yeah, I think they cover it too. Look, I mean, this is the way I look at it. If you took OKC off the front of the jersey, and you took New Orleans off the front of their jersey, right? And you forgot about the fact that OKC is the youngest team, to make the playoffs in however many years it is. You got rid of all that, and you just looked at the raw numbers of what Oklahoma City does offensively and defensively, and then what New Orleans does offensively and defensively. You'd look at it and go, well, it makes sense that 1 seed is up 3-0 over the 8 seed. They're markedly better. They're an incredibly much better team than that 8 seed. They should be up 3-0. And if you look at it through that lens, you understand why we are where we are. Yes, New Orleans' best opportunity was to steal game 1 to make a series out of this. They didn't do it. It was the one game where you saw the shooting nerves from OKC, where they didn't have their best offensive game, and New Orleans was able to keep it close and take advantage. But they have been completely overmatched in the 2 games since. I think they'll be completely overmatched tonight. I like the Thunder here. The line's up to 5 now, so you got to start to be careful as you start to float into that range here when you get to 5.5, if you haven't already bet it, that like, hey, these numbers may matter when it's all said and done. But for the most part, yeah, I think OKC is the right side tonight.
Well, or, I know George Kurtz was just on with us. He'll be on with us again later this hour. Much like George, you go all poly parlay and just, pair together the money line for the Celtics and the Thunder. And it's not going to be an even money bet, but you want to, take the stress of sweating spreads out of it with especially Boston with a double-digit spread. Do something like that. Get yourself in the -1 whatever range that it is. I could pull it up and see what exactly it is, but you could pair those two together. Think about it that way. The one that is maybe a little bit of a, all right, well, let's just see what the LeBron James and Anthony Davis-led Lakers do here in what could be the grand finale of their season. This game against the Denver Nuggets tonight, it is in Denver again. So, you got a 6.5 point line as I'm looking at it right now with Denver favored. Of course, the popular play throughout this series after, the Lakers, as we know, stole this last game, never relented when it looked like Denver was going to come back as it had each of the first 3 games. It was Lakers lead at the half. Denver comes back to not only win, but cover. Again, that had happened the first 3 games, did not happen the last time out. I don't know what the right way, you tell me, the right way to play the spread is in this one, or if you want to do a half full bet, that type of thing. The bet that I really like is over 26.5 points for LeBron James, because even if the Lakers go down, and I think they will, I don't think he goes down quietly.
I mean, look, you can't bet Denver in the first half. I mean, suppose you can. I've bet Denver in the first half twice in this series and have come up empty both times. So I'm not doing that again. They should be leading at half at some point, but they've trailed at halftime in all 4 of these games. So if you'd like to bet on the Lakers once again to end up leading at half, that might not be a terrible bet, especially since you're probably going to get 3.5 points. I think that may be worth it. But what we've seen is that the Lakers are fading in the second half, particularly the games in Denver, whether it's the altitude, lack of oxygen, call it whatever you want. But in reality, look, Denver is a much better team. I said repeatedly, I thought that Denver was going to sweep them. Obviously, that didn't happen. But there's nothing the Lakers do better in the game of basketball than the Nuggets. They just don't. Like, the Lakers are not good enough to beat Denver. Denver can only beat themselves. That means they have to have a night where they don't shoot well. They have to have a night where they give up too many points and they don't play good defense. Like, that's the way the Lakers will win another game here in this series. Otherwise, it's Denver's here. I lay it with Denver or it's Lakers money line. I think those are the only 2 plays you take. I wouldn't take the 7.5 or 6.5, whatever the number is. It's just not worth it because I don't see a game script developing where the Lakers are fighting, to a last-second victory, or Denver's fighting to a last-second victory. If Denver's going to do enough to win this game, they're going to pull away because they're markedly better.
Tell you what, though, man, if you did want to do the Lakers lead at the half and the Nuggets win the game, that half full bet, as we saw in games 1, 2, 3, you're getting basically 5-1 on that. It's a good number if you think that history repeats itself for the 4th time in 5 games in this series. I do want to just, quickly look ahead to tomorrow with one game because news has come out, and that is Giannis, of course, is doubtful for the Bucks, and Damian Lillard once again is doubtful for the Bucks. And so it's the Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton led squad in trying to stay alive against Indiana. As far as I'm concerned, the series is over. I bet Indiana to win the series before it even started. But, this is just a train wreck of a series for Milwaukee in the second straight year, looking at injuries, and you go out, you think it's going to be a great year, you acquire Damian Lillard, and you make Giannis happy and all of that, and it's same result even after firing the coach.
Tough sell for Milwaukee here. I bet the Pacers to win the series as soon as the news that Giannis was going to be out was definitive. And I think I got it at plus 110 at the time. Wasn't a great number, all things considered, that there was a higher number out there. But the Pacers, again, another team that's starting to normalize with their regular season shooting. I mean, they have not shot well in this series, save game 4, which they did last night, and were able to take advantage. But, this, again, is one of these spots here where I don't know that I necessarily believe that there's enough firepower with Milwaukee. I mean, Bobby Portis getting ejected certainly did not go well for the Milwaukee Bucks. The one defender that they had and the one wing player that they had, they just lost. So that makes things very difficult for them. But all things considered here, I don't know that there's enough offensive firepower. And I tell you what, I'm curious to see what they did with the total. I didn't even check yet, Adam, but you saw all that scoring outburst without Giannis and Dame on the floor. Guess what? Indiana doesn't really have to worry about playing defense all that much because there's not really a ton of shooters out there that they need to worry about. So we saw the pace pick up. We saw the scoring pick up on both ends, and I'm curious to see how much they adjusted that total for Game 5 between these two teams.
Yeah, and it's a light spread. 4-point favorites, the Pacers in Milwaukee. I'm inclined to bet Indiana to cover because I think that number is only going to climb once Dame is officially ruled out. But just to mix in some NFL, I was talking earlier about how we were going to get to the draft just a little bit, and I know that you and I are in agreement in thinking the Falcons, it was just malpractice, general manager malpractice to go out and take Michael Penix Jr., 8th overall, first pick, obviously, that they had. He goes by a different name on the Falcons Twitter account, if anybody saw that on social media earlier. But I just, what is...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's a disaster. Poor intern. Probably having to beg to keep his job in that situation. But this team... this doesn't have to be a distraction this year. It will be if Cousins is slow to rehab, obviously, from this injury, and Penix is lighting it up in training camp or something like that. Why even put Kirk Cousins in this position, especially when you're Atlanta management, you're the front office saying that, if Penix sits for a few years, 4 to 5 years, that's a good problem to have. No, this is a disaster in waiting.
I don't know that there is any other window that they can get out of this with other than Kirk Cousins playing really well and then deciding to retire on his own and walk away. Like, how do you bench Kirk Cousins if you go to the playoffs in back-to-back years?
No, I'm with you. It's going to be really interesting to watch. And look, the Falcons, they've got some talent. Maybe they're a playoff team, especially in that division. Mark Zinno, Mark, thanks so much, man. We'll talk again soon. All right, well,
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit, and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
George Kurtz rejoins us here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. Kaufman back with you. Thanks to Mark Zinno. A lot of great thoughts from him on the NBA playoffs and how to bet those games that we have coming up tonight, as well as, of course, that Milwaukee-Indiana game tomorrow. Kurtzy, what you do with your 20 or so minute break? You take the dog for a walk?
No, dog goes for a walk later on after the Yankee game tonight, okay? She goes between the Yankee game and between Sports Rage, okay? She knows when her time is. It has to be dark. She likes to go at nighttime here. I watched the Yankee game, right? The Yankees, other than a Judge single, the Yankees went down quietly in the first inning here. Still scoreless in Baltimore, and no score in the Washington-Miami game either, the other game that's currently being played.
All right, let's talk about some of the games that are still to come, obviously, and there are a lot of them this evening. Let's begin with the Royals at the Blue Jays with Rodriguez against, Bowlen on the mound. I'm not even familiar with this pitcher. I'll tell you what, though. They have my support as an offense because I bet the Royals on the money line in this game. I also bet the under in this contest. How do you look at this game?
Boy, betting the under in Toronto is normally I would say you're out of your mind here, but the Blue Jays don't hit in Toronto. I don't get it. You know, they brought the fences in. It's a joke of a ballpark here, right? That ballpark was small before they brought the fences in. Now it's just it's a little league park here. But the Jays, for whatever reason, don't hit. No Bichette tonight, right? He has the night off here. I'm kind of with you. I didn't bet it, mind you. I'm not going to here, but I do like the Royals tonight. Even though I said I don't know much about Bowden either. Really don't know much about Rodriguez also, which is probably why I shy away from the under. You wonder if it's going to be more of a bullpen game than anything else here. But I do like the Royals tonight. The Royals are playing pretty well in the early going, and I think they can hit. Not worried about the hitting. I do wonder about the pitching as the season moves along here.
Historically speaking, when I bet on the Mets, it goes the other way, and I have bet the Mets on the money line tonight, so that should tell you the Cubs are going to win this game. If you're thinking about how you want to bet it, it's another one that I bet the under in, but the bet that I spread things around. I'm a volume better, as I've talked about, but the bet that I really like in this game that I have placed more on, of that grouping, is the under on strikeouts for Luis Severino. It's sitting at 5.5. I know he's burned me before, but I like the under there. Did you delve into the K props in this game or at all?
No, I did not. By the way, it is now 1-0 Orioles as we have a leadoff home run for who else but Gunnar Henderson here. So not starting off well here. But then again, I'm on the Orioles, so it may not be the worst thing on the planet. Gunnar Henderson leadoff home run there. It's funny you mentioned that. The Mets have been pretty much my bugaboo team as well here, where if I bet them to win, they lose. If I lose, they win. They always seem to screw me over here. And I'm on them tonight, too. All right, I'm on the Mets tonight as well here. Got a big win in extra innings yesterday over the Cardinals there. Cubs, no Bellinger, no Suzuki. I do wonder if they'll struggle so much. I'm actually going to the Met-Cub game on Thursday. Lucky me.
Nice.
So I think the Mets get off to a good start to the series here. They win tonight.
Rays and Brewers. Wilson's K prop was 4.5 when I wanted to bet it. By the time I got to it, it had already dropped down to 3.5. So the expectations are not high for him to get the strikeouts tonight. But this is another one, under season, I guess. I bet under. It was 8.5 at the time when I bet it. It's down to 8, I think, in most places. I also bet Milwaukee on the money line at home. I just think that they are ultimately superior in this matchup. But how do you read it?
I'm sorry. Didn't the Rays just get swept by the White Sox? I believe they did. I'm not betting on the Rays. All right, that ain't happening. I mean, that's a terrible team. You just got. I mean, they had 3 wins going into that series, and they doubled it up against you. You can make an argument that Pepio is their best starter, but even if you believe that, we're not talking an ace starter here. For what it's worth, the Sox do have their ace starter, right? Not the Sox. The Brewers. It's not Peralta, but it can't be any worse than what they threw against the Yankees all weekend. All right, so I'm with you. I'm on the Brewers as well here. The Rays just can't hit right now. They can't hit. They're struggling as like there's no tomorrow right now. They can't hit. I do like Pepio, but I like the Brewers in this game as well. Until the Rays prove to me they can do something, they're struggling too much. We'll see what happens once they get Josh Lowe back. Maybe he'll be their savior, but I have a hard time believing that also.
Dodgers and Diamondbacks are an interesting one, if for no other reason than the inconsistency that we've seen from Los Angeles so far this year. This, widely assumed future World Series champ after all of the offseason moves. They've kind of, by expectation anyway, stumbled out of the gate. This isn't a team that looks like it's going to win 110 games, I guess is what I'm saying. I bet Arizona on the money line tonight, if for no other reason than I like the plus number. You know, you can get them at home. Obviously, it was plus 115 a little bit earlier. You see 114 on your screen right there. What do you think?
It's Henry versus Paxton. My first look was the over. What's the over? It's up to 10. All right, that's pretty high. Not so sure I'm going to be thrilled about going the over there, but I was hoping to be maybe 9.5. I probably would have hit the over. I think runs are coming tonight, so I think you might want to look at total base props here. Maybe Mookie Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, any one of those guys. Maybe all of them. Maybe you just want to run the board here. You play all three. They're probably you get plus money somewhere. If you get all plus money at all three, you only need to hit 2, and there you go. So that's probably how I'm going to attack this. I kind of like, it's funny. If you were asked a month ago, Dodgers playing, Diamondbacks are getting plus 134 against Tommy Henry, minus 134 against Tommy Henry. We're all jumping on that because we thought the Dodgers are going to win 17,000 games, and we're going to take that and run here. Now we're not as sure because they're not. I think they're just bored. I think they're already bored here. That's my theory here. Maybe you want to take plus 118, minus 1.5. I think the Dodgers win the game. I just have to. But it is a long trip. They were in Toronto, now Arizona. Maybe that hurts a little bit here. I just don't like the pitching matchup for Arizona. I'm not a big Henry guy here. It's my only hesitation, or else I probably would have taken them with you. But I'm gonna be big on the props. Like total base props on the Dodgers.
Staying out west, northwest in this particular case, it is the Mariners at home against the Braves. Miller against Fried. I went under on Miller's strikeout prop. It was 5.5 a little bit earlier, might still be. I didn't bet a side in this one. I'm just not entirely sure how to read it. What about you?
I think that's fair. We don't know. Is Max Fried back? Right, he had a good start last time, but before that, he wasn't very good at all. Is he back to being Max Fried? I don't trust him either. I don't know if I trust Miller yet either. Once again, it's early in the season. We're still getting these guys up to par here. It's hard not to lean the Braves. But once again, long, cross-country trip makes me think that's going to be a lower-scoring game. I kind of like the under in this game, my favorite play.
George, before we let you go, you have a favorite play tonight in general?
A favorite play in general, I think Mookie Betts is getting over 1.5 total bases. He's done it all season long. I see no reason why he's not going to beat up on Tommy Henry tonight. You want to bet an Ohtani home run prop? I like that as well.
Saw the video of Betts out there in the field 5 hours before the game working out. Why can't the Red Sox sign guys like that? George Kurtz, thanks, pal.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Drysdale could easily at plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Thanks to George Kurtz, a little split action from him, a Zinno sandwich, you might say. A lot of great stuff out of Kurtzy talking baseball as well as pucks. We're going to keep the puck talk going here and mix in the diamond as well with our own Joe Madden, of course, another regular across SportsGrid programming. Just for me to say the name, you know exactly who I am talking about. Joe, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing good, Adam. So excited for these two games on the ice tonight. It's been an exciting first round of the playoff series. Hats off to the New York Rangers for being able to get that win yesterday. It's been super exciting out there on the ice.
I mentioned this earlier, though, in the opening segment of the show, that having the playoffs felt a little underwhelming to you so far, just in that every series, basically, I mean, the one's already done, as you said, with the Rangers winning, and really every single series, it's just, it hasn't been contested thus far. 3-1 almost across the board in many cases. I know it could very well be the same if Vegas goes on and wins tonight. You got the Panthers trying to close out the Lightning tonight. It would have been nice here in the opening round to feel like we were going to see some game sevens, and I don't think we're going to get there.
Things aren't done yet. I think we could see a couple of these series go all the way to game 7. I know it's so hard for these teams that are down 3-1 right now to push it back all the way to 7, but I'm not counting anything out at this point. All of these teams have so much to play for. And we look at tonight's series, Adam, and I think the Lightning might have a chance.
All right, well, let's talk about that one. What do you like about Tampa in this game?
You look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're coming in here with Andrei Vasilevskiy in net, and he's just been brilliant in his career in elimination games with a save percentage of 926. I do think in this one, the Florida Panthers, they know they can't get into the game that the Tampa Bay Lightning were able to play in that last game, and I do expect that lockdown on defense out of the Florida Panthers, but also for the Tampa Bay Lightning to come out nice and strong in this one. We've seen Stamkos be able to find the back of the net, lighting that lamp in every single game out there so far in this series. And in a couple of these games, he's had those 2 goals. So I'm looking for him to come out nice and strong, be able to find the back of Bobrovsky's net. But I really do think this game, lower scoring game, both of these teams locked down on defense, both goaltenders stand nice and tall, but Tampa, with their backs against the wall, has every opportunity to win. And at this price, at plus money, I'm willing to take a chance on them here. Now, the Florida Panthers are incredibly strong. I would hate to see this series get closed out early, but I do think if there's a chance, the Florida Panthers finishing it off. I don't think if they win it, though, it's in regulation. I'm looking at this game also to go to overtime here, Adam.
Most of the handle and the money on the under 6.5 goals in this one. So that's where you lean as well?
Yeah, I definitely think this one stays under that total. The only fear is if it gets pushed 3-3 and going to overtime and us hitting that 7. But I'm more likely to see this one 2-2 than going to overtime and hitting 5 goals. So I could even see ulting it to under the 5.5 because I do think defense and goaltending show up.
The nightcap, it's just a 2-game slate that we have. Of course, as Mark outlined earlier, that's going to be the norm here pretty soon across both the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs. But Dallas Stars, top seed, trying to even up this series with the Golden Knights after Vegas took both games in Dallas. Now just trying to split at home to take it back to Dallas. Which way does this one go?
Vegas leading the series 2-1 has been an underdog in every single one of these games. And I know the Stars were able to win that last game, something I didn't expect in the Fortress in the first game on Vegas's ice. But I do think Vegas takes the lead again tonight, getting another win here. I'm willing to take them at this plus money at plus 104, expecting a big game out of Jack Eichel, Mark Stone. Jake Ottinger looked great in that last game. Vegas was able to get those shots on him. And the Stars came out with a ton of shots themselves on Logan Thompson. I'm expecting the defense and goaltending to stand up for Vegas. So give me the Vegas Golden Knights here on the money line and another low scoring one. Give me the under 5.5 in this one, Adam.
Interesting. I was going to ask you about that because you look at the splits and they are pretty split. I mean, it's almost 50-50 in terms of the over and the under, which obviously makes this 5.5 goals a very efficient line. But what has you lean lower scoring? Just the, I don't know, desperation intensity of the playoffs?
Yeah, the intensity here. We really need to see these teams really start showing up on the defensive side of the puck. And I think we'll see that in that last game. Wyatt Johnson, he's not even 21 yet, Adam, got the leading goal for the Stars and the overtime goal. I just don't see a player standing out like that again in this game tonight.
When I was on the cusp of 21, Joe, I sure as hell was not participating in the Stanley Cup playoff game. I'll tell you that. I wasn't doing anything noteworthy. But I am talking to Joe Madden. Baseball on the way.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit, and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
It is hour number 2 of Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Thanks to everybody watching, of course, listening across SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM channel 159. Couple of games in progress on the diamond, nothing yet on the ice and in the NBA just yet. That will get started here very shortly. But Orioles with that Gunnar Henderson home run have taken a 1-0 lead at home against the Yankees. That is going to the bottom of the second, still obviously very early. And no score. Bottom 2 between the Nationals and Marlins. So if you had the Nerfy in that one, the no-run first inning, congrats. You hit an early bet in that game. We got a lot of games getting started here pretty soon. Royals, Blue Jays, we're about 5 minutes away from the start of that one. The Cubs and Mets. Twins, White Sox, Rays, Brewers, all later on this hour as well. Talking here with Joe Madden, and we were doing some hockey to close out the opening hour. Let's move here, Joe, to the diamond, and just start us off first with what is your favorite bet across baseball tonight?
Ooh, favorite bet across the whole slate tonight?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting one. I think I'm going to look at the Phillies in the first 5 on the money line versus the LA Angels. I like their ability with Sanchez coming out here. He's got such a strong ERA at 2.59, and I do think the Angels here have such a ability to get those strikeouts, and I'm looking for him to be able to come out here, go over his strikeout number of 5.5. You're getting plus money on that at plus 104, and because of that, I'm looking at the Phillies to be able to dominate in those first five. So that's at minus 135. We know this team has really been able to limit their opponent's ability to get these runs on the board. And Canning coming out here for the Angels, I just don't have the faith in him, Adam, in this one. So it's definitely the Phillies. First five money line and Sanchez over on his strikeouts of 5.5 for my favorite bet of the night.
Yeah, Canning under on strikeouts is a play that I made as well. He is just, that's one that I'm always attracted to. But there are a number of interesting games tonight. We were talking about the Rays and the Brewers earlier with George Kurtz, and this is one where basically it came down to, him saying, well, I don't trust Pepio, I don't trust the Rays. So almost by default, looking at the Milwaukee Brewers, I told him that I bet Milwaukee on the money line tonight. What do you like in this game?
Oh, see, I trust Pepio. You look at him in his last couple of starts, and he's been absolute fire out there. So I do think Tampa has a chance of winning at least the first five. I would look at the Tampa Bay Rays in the first five, but I could see a way that the Brewers end up pulling it out for the full thing. Wilson getting the start for them. He's trustworthy at home as well. So something I'm looking at in this one is because I do trust both starting pitchers. I love when I do to take the under in the first 5 innings. So the under in the first 5 innings is coming in at 4.5. That's at minus 130. And I do think this one could be a super low scoring game going into the second half of it. So the under 5 or under 4.5 in the first 5 at minus 130. But Pepio, you'd look at him and he's at 12 innings, only allowed 2 earned runs in those last 2 starts. So I do look for him to be nice and strong in this start tonight.
One of these games beginning in just a little bit, I did want to ask you about the Twins and the White Sox, because as we know, the White Sox, not a good team. The Twins are, better anyway, and it's a divisional matchup here. I don't like to mess around with the run line too often, simply because I have burned by it, Joe. I don't know how many times, it's like ultimately the team that I've supported, they allow they're up by 2 going into the 9th and allow a run, and they win by 1. It's happened to me a million times. I hate getting hooked by the run line. That being said, I actually like Minnesota on the run line tonight. I don't know if that was me thinking, highly enough of the Twins or so little of the White Sox, or somewhere in between. I also have a bet just on the money line for Minnesota because it's not an egregious line. It's a little bit more than a minus $1.50. What do you think of this game?
It's going to be an interesting one here because I don't know how much faith I really do have in Joe Ryan. So when you're looking at that run line, I definitely think this is a team that should be able to come out here on the road and be able to cover it. But we're going to need this bullpen to come strong. I always love looking at a home dog, but you're right. It is the White Sox here, and this team has been struggling. They haven't been even able to record a lot of wins at home, 5-9 at home. But I do think if I had to take something, gun to my head, Adam, I would be with you on the Twins here on that run line. But this is a game that I kind of just stayed off because I was looking at that run line record. They are 9-6 on the road on the run line, so they have been strong. But my faith in Joe Ryan, it's just kind of wavering out there.
Braves and Mariners in a couple hours. And what's interesting to me about this game and just some of the, projections I was looking at coming in is people are really high. When I say people, I guess I mean, some of the projection services there. There's some unification. There's a lot of support on the home run props for both Ozzie Albies and Matt Olson. I don't know how much you delve into home run props versus just, being more inclined to play around with total bases and strikeout props and sides and totals and all of that. But I'm curious what you think in this matchup.
I love to play home run props, but you look at this matchup and I look at the starting pitchers and I think this is a duel out there. It's Miller time. I love Bryce Miller at home for the Seattle Mariners, and I do think he's going to come out nice and strong. And then you got Max Fried on the other side. Max Fried, his ERA isn't as strong as I would like to see it at 4.97, but I do think he can have a strong performance here. In this one, I'm looking for the Nerfy, the no runs in the first inning coming in at minus 145. I'm also looking at this one to stay under that total of 7. You're getting a little bit of plus money on the under. And I would look here for the Seattle Mariners at home with Bryce Miller getting the start to be able to record that win. You're getting plus money with them as well. And I know the Braves are are such a strong team, but I think Bryce Miller is really going to limit those bats tonight, Adam. Almost called you Kevin. Sorry about that.
I mean, he's usually sitting here in this slot. I mean,
Yes.
for Kevin Walsh, that's okay. There's, I don't think he would mind. I don't mind. He's a fine host. Let's talk about the Pirates and Athletics for a moment here, because really, I'm just wondering, are we at the point? It's still early in the season here, obviously, but are we at the point where sort of all of the very early season, and it happened all throughout last year, that just sort of mocking and laughing and betting against the Oakland Athletics, I mean, game after game, like you just want to, whoever they're playing, play the run line of the other team, that type of thing. Are the A's actually kind of decent, or at least decent enough that we have to respect them?
Decent enough that we have to respect them. They're sitting 12-17 here. It's not the worst record out there. And I do think you look at the Oakland A's, and when you're getting the value for them, and that's when I want to jump on them at plus 110, plus 112-ish today. It's not a situation I want to jump on them, especially against the Pirates. I do think the Pirates will be able to get the win in this one today. But when we're getting the A's as a larger dog, especially at home, it's situations like that I like to look at them, especially when you look at their opponents and what their opponents are coming off series and what they've been doing out there. So I don't think you can just laugh at the Oakland A's and just bet against them each and every one of these games, because if you haven't been making money out there, Adam.
Reds and Padres, how do you feel? There's not a lot in this game that I like, but how do you feel about the over on strikeout props for Lodolo on the Cincinnati side? I was looking earlier, it was 5.5. I went over, it was even money. It just sort of felt like I don't know, it's not automatic that he's going to do it, obviously, but it felt like too good a line to be true.
You know what? Actually, I like his over 5.5s, because you look at the Padres, they completely struggle to hit lefties. So him coming out here, he really does have a solid chance of going over that strikeout number. Both of these teams, I do think, are going to struggle to get those hits today. And I do think runs are going to come at a premium. This is one of those games that I'm looking at the first 5 to the under again, Adam. And this number is so low, under 3.5. You're getting plus money, though, at plus 112. And I definitely would circle that strikeout prop for him, because I do think he's going to come out solid.
A lot of great stuff out of Joe Madden. You can get her on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports. Make sure that you do. And Joe, thanks so much for hopping on. We'll talk again soon.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we are back. Game time decisions. Again, great stuff from Joe Madden. Let us bring in another regular here across SportsGrid programming and my partner in crime on Saturday nights with in-game live overtime. It is Brady Cannon. You can get him on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer because oftentimes the man is, talking about what's going on with the links and doing so at an astute rate, making you money. Brady, how are you?
I'm good, my friend. Good to be with you once again. And actually got out to play a little golf myself this morning. So that was nice out here in a beautiful Las Vegas morning.
I think I would have trouble looking away from my phone that period of time. So it's like going to confession. It has been 3 hours since I last placed a bet, and it's twitching. It's a sign of a problem, I suppose. It's not as though Brady, though, only talks golf. He is, fully equipped to talk all things sports. We're going to do a lot of NFL draft and look at some futures with him. He's here with us for a couple of segments. But before we do, some bets on the ice tonight. You got the Vegas Golden Knights, obviously, in your backyard, looking for a 3-1 lead on the Dallas Stars tonight. I've mentioned a number of times that I'm all about Vegas to win this series. Certainly got some support from Joe Madden and George Kurtz earlier. What are you looking at?
Well, I actually played the Dallas Stars to win the conference. So I'm hoping this series gets a little tighter. And I did bet the Dallas Stars tonight. And, my family, we're all excited to watch this game tonight. And I hate to root against the home team. It's kind of an emotional hedge, I guess. If the Vegas Golden Knights win, that's okay. If the Stars win, then I win some money. I really do think they will even it up tonight. I bet on the Stars in game 3 for a winner, and that one was a little too close for comfort when they got all the way to overtime. But, this is the number 1 seed in the conference. They're taking on the defending Stanley Cup champions in their home building, on their home ice. And, all the expectation and the pressure was kind of on the Stars, and they couldn't live up to those expectations. So I think the best thing for them was to get out on the road. And then they face a Vegas team that was feeling pretty fat and happy about getting 2 wins on the road and now on their home ice. And I think that probably carries over a little bit here in game 4. The Stars obviously still have the urgency. They don't have the pressure of being at home. And maybe Vegas is feeling a little bit of pressure now that they've given up 1 game. So I laid the price with the Stars once again. I also think this game could go under the total because I think Vegas, that was a little bit of a wake-up call. Hey, this series isn't over yet. Let's clamp down on defense. And I think the Stars know that if they're going to continue to go further along in this series, if they get down 3-1, it's pretty tough to come back from that. So they know to have life in this series that they have to play defense as well. So I think it's possible that this game could stay under the total. It did the other night, went to overtime. I wouldn't be surprised by a similar game here on Monday night in Las Vegas.
Joe liked the under in that one as well. So you have some support. How about we how's this for a transition? Vegas to Vegas. Some breaking news. It's not huge, but some breaking news in the NFL. Adam Schefter has reported that Michael Gallup, long of the Dallas Cowboys, is signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. 1-year deal, $3 million. Obviously, the Raiders, it's not like they've got these sky-high expectations for this year. Maybe in-house they do, but in terms of the public and the way that we bet these things, they don't. Gallup hasn't really been a factor in a little while on the field. Just kept falling down that Dak Prescott depth chart there in Dallas. Can he make an impact, do you think, in Vegas?
I think he can. I always liked the guy, and I always wondered why he seemed to continue to disappear more and more so, like you kind of allude to there in Dallas. I never really got that. And, CeeDee Lamb, I understand, is the focal point there in Dallas. Tony Pollard didn't really work out when they let Ezekiel Elliott go. Dallas just makes a lot of weird decisions. I don't think they had a great draft. They didn't draft a running back. So, a fresh scene could be good for Michael Gallup. He's certainly got some good running mates at wide receiver in Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. They add Brock Bowers in the draft at tight end. They've already got a good tight end in Michael Mayer. I think the Raiders receiving core is pretty stout, and being a part of that picture is a good thing, I believe. I mean, the more decoys, if you're going to use Adams as a decoy, Gallup could have a really big year. Like I say, I've always liked the guy. Now, it seems like about 3 years since he had a really good season, but I don't think his workload has been too much. So I don't mind it at all. You get him for a relatively cheap price, and I think he still has some good game left in him.
NFL draft saw 6 quarterbacks, Brady, taken in the first 12 picks. Historic, obviously, something we hadn't seen since the early 1980s, I believe it was. And this is it's an interesting mix. And I feel like I need to remind people that when we have a conversation about year one expectations, it is not indicative of what is to come necessarily, because, that 2021 draft, Mac Jones was the best rookie in that class. And Trevor Lawrence is the only one that still has a starting job. So when we look at this group, Caleb Williams goes number 1 overall to the Bears, and what they have surrounded him with, obviously he could be positioned to have a very, very good season. Jaden Daniels is certainly going to start for the Commanders. Drake May, word is anyway, the Patriots are going to sit him for as long as possible, and it'll be the Jacoby Brissett show, but those things can change depending on how it goes in training camp, so we'll see. Michael Penix Jr., don't even get us started, right? Like, there's no way he's playing. He might not play for 5 years for the Falcons with Kirk Cousins there, if you listen to management. And then J.J. McCarthy, he should start for the Vikings, obviously. And then Bo Nix, it's going to be a competition there in camp for the Broncos. Zach Wilson is there now, among others. Who do you think, other than Caleb Williams, makes the greatest year one impact?
I think it has to be Daniels. You talk about Drake May. I think Jacoby Brissett is probably going to get the start there. And like you mentioned, they'll probably take him as long as they can, until it's performance-based or it's injury-wise, before they insert Drake May into that lineup. J.J. McCarthy, I'm not so sure. I mean, if he's going to be the day one starter. They have Sam Darnold there too, and I don't think Darnold is necessarily awful. And I think J.J. McCarthy's a mystery. I'm not sure what we're really getting out of this kid. So we can talk more on the other side. I know we're running out of time here, but we'll revisit this when we come back, my friend.
Rookie of the Year odds. How about that? Brady Cannon still with us.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core player that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Cannon and Kaufman here talking on Sports Grid and looking at the NFL draft, and not just the draft, but what transpired to take us into, of course, futures talk. And that is Rookie of the Year, offensive Rookie of the Year in particular, Brady. We were just talking about the quarterbacks, but it's not all about the quarterbacks. Not when you have the likes of Marvin Harrison and, Malik Neighbors, Xavier worthy of being in the conversation, Roma Dunze. Maybe we get a great battery between he and Caleb Williams there in Chicago. Of course, he's got some competition to overcome there with Keenan Allen there now. And of course, DJ Moore and just a pretty good class of receivers there with Chicago. But if you're looking at the Rookie of the Year, we know Caleb Williams is going to play. So in some ways, it sort of makes me think of going into the NBA season when people were having that debate between Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren, and who's going to be the Rookie of the Year. And Wemby was just this consensus favorite. The only question was, is he going to be available? Is he going to play in enough games? Or, being a big man as he is he going to get hurt and not reach the minimum criteria the NBA instituted? And of course, runaway favorite, incredible contention for Defensive Player of the Year, all of that stuff. I say that just to say that it sort of surprises me that you're even getting a plus number on Caleb Williams right now, let alone plus 250. It feels a little too good to be true.
Yeah, I hear you. And sometimes that scares you away from making a bet, something looks fishy. But yeah, I obviously he deserves to be the favorite, and he would probably be the person I would look at the hardest at this point. It's so early, we have to go through training camp. You got to go through all that stuff. Injuries can still happen in the off season. So I think it's tough to make a bet at this point. I wouldn't necessarily do it myself. I'd probably wait, and you might lose the price a little bit, but maybe even as low as even money is not too bad by the time we get to the start of the season. You look at some of the other names on this list. Marvin Harrison Jr., we know, or we expect him to be a tremendous talent. I just wonder about that division that they play in. You have the Niners defense, the Rams defense is pretty darn good. I think the Seahawks defense is getting better. Kyler Murray, he's not my favorite quarterback in the world. He is, subject to injury at times. So I'm a little skeptical on Harrison Jr. Malik Neighbors, I'm not even sure if that was the best draft pick for the New York Giants. Obviously they're going to give Daniel Jones one more season. But I mean, how many touchdowns did they throw last year? Like 17? So is that guy really going to blow it up and catch 10 touchdowns or what have you? I think he's capable, but I just don't know if they have the offense that can really put him in a position to exceed, all expectations and make an impact where you're going to award him that type of thing. Williams seems like the guy that has, like you said, they've built all the weapons around him. The offensive line is much better, tremendously better than it was when Justin Fields was drafted to be the quarterback there in Chicago. I'll tell you one long shot I might look at is Keon Coleman for the Buffalo Bills. I think this kid's a pretty darn good receiver. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is gone. I believe Gabe Davis is gone as well. So he's pretty much the number one guy there. And you do have a very good team with a very good quarterback and a very good offense. So he could be, a long shot, at 25-1 there? That might be worth a little flyer.
Yeah, I mean, look, by comparison, Caleb Williams is being carried around like a king, being, fed grapes, whereas Justin Fields was basically given the finger by management. It's not even comparable in terms of how these guys were set up for success. But if you're looking, and maybe it is, the Bears in the NFC North and what they have to deal with, which do you think is the most competitive division going into this year?
Well, I think it has been for at least a handful of years or so now. The AFC North is probably the best division in football, but I'm not so sure the NFC North isn't the second best division this year. And a lot of that has to do with what the Bears did in the offseason and the draft. You remember they used draft picks to get Keenan Allen and to get I'm trying to remember the other player that they picked up, but they've got DJ Moore. They now have a Dunze. The offensive line has improved, as I mentioned. I think the defensive line got a huge boost with Montez Sweat coming over last year. I think that division's going to be nasty, and at almost 4-1, I don't think the Bears are a bad play to win that division. I think they can get 10 wins this season. That might be enough.
DeAndre Swift there as well, if that's the man you were thinking of. It, running back room has gotten better. Brady Cannon, thank you. Dave Sharapan when we come back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit, and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome stuff with Brady Cannon. Great conversation. And you know what? There's no reason to stop the great conversation. Let's keep it going here. Dave Sharapan, who, of course, is all over SportsGrid programming, including right after this show. He is going to have you for a few hours. You can get him on Twitter at SportsBKConsig. He is the Sportsbook Consigliere. How are you?
I'm good, Adam. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
Coming off the draft, which I did pay almost zero attention to, and you've been focused with this. Perfectly honest, it was one of the worst things I ever had to do in the book was try to book the draft. I didn't like it. I enjoy watching it, but as far as betting it and all that other stuff, it was one of those things that it was probably the bane of our existence in the book. Taking the bet, trying to figure out the numbers, all the nonsense lying, who's drafting who, when, who's not taking a quarterback. Yeah. Everybody takes a quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, playoffs, baby. We got basketball, we got hockey, and then of course we always have baseball.
It is funny you say that. The NFL draft is, I mean, a long time ago, like a lifetime ago before I was working in sports growing up. It never really, I'm a big NFL fan, but not as big a college football fan growing up. And so I didn't really, NFL draft didn't do much for me. And then as, the time went on and obviously getting into betting and all of that, it's still like the one thing I like talking about it for sure. And I doing all the research and learning more about these players and betting angles and everything. But as far as actually throwing my money at it, I don't bet the draft a lot. I'd rather just watch it, see it unfold. Because as you alluded to, it's lion season across the board, and I just have no interest in trying to see through it. I would rather bet on things that I know, that I understand, and that you can sort of go down narrative street and tell yourself a story, as you can do in these playoffs. How's a series going to go? How's a game going to go? I don't know how some random general manager that I've never heard of in some whatever city is thinking, and I don't want to pretend to.
Oh, without a doubt. And the fun thing, at least about, either side of the counter, when you bet a game or a prop or something, the game plays out. And you can be on the complete wrong side and win. You can be on the complete right side and lose. You can handicap it perfectly. Like if you had Nashville yesterday against Vancouver, the game's a dead under and it's over. Nashville's going to win. And then pull the goalies, goal scored, tie the game, 3-3, overtime, a minute in, and Vancouver wins. So that's at least the fun part of it, win or lose. And you can have an edge in those situations where you win. The draft, you wait for the guy to walk up to the podium, announce the name, and then you watch the big hug and you go, I can't believe I bet the other side of that. Like, how did I not know that? Or something. It leaves you questioning everything you've ever done. So, yeah, I'm good with the draft.
So you mentioned the ice, the Lightning, the Panthers, and I am on the Panthers side in this one. Joe Madden was on with us earlier. She likes the Lightning. This game is, I was about to say it's scoreless. Anthony Cirelli just scored as I was talking about it. And so it's 1-0 Tampa has jumped out to a lead in this one. It's still very early, 7 minutes to go in the opening period. We got another game later on tonight, which we will get to, but a game that is starting here momentarily on the hardwood. That is the Celtics in South Beach, looking for a 3-1 lead on the Miami Heat. I mentioned earlier Mark Zinno as well. I like the 10.5. Give me the Celtics to cover in this one. That is without my Boston area bias. How do you see this one playing out?
The number's right. Like, it gets to a certain point where you can't bet it at that number. If you like the Celtics, I think you have to lay it. I think there's no other case. But what makes you believe after what you saw in Game 3 that the Heat have a chance? I mean, we were on Saturday. I was on with Joe and Matt, and we were watching the in-game bounce between 17, 18. I said, you got to take 20. 20 is the number. Like tonight, if you gave me 20, I'd feel a lot more comfortable than taking 10.5 because I feel like the Celtics got their wake-up call. They lost the game at home. They're not going to lose the game. The only reason you bet on the dog is that you think you got a shot at winning the game. I don't think the Heat have a shot at winning the game. It would be lay it or just let it go.
No, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think the other two games that we have a little bit later on are slightly more interesting. I guess sort of gradually more interesting. The Thunder and the Pelicans. I said earlier, I like the Thunder to cover the 4.5 even more actually than I like Boston to cover the 10.5 because it's not that I like the Thunder more than I like Boston, but I like the number a hell of a lot more because surprisingly, and I don't really understand it, we're not asking a whole hell of a lot out of OKC in this one, coming off of back-to-back blowouts of the injury-ravaged Pelicans. Again, there's no Zion. You got guys that are banged up on that team. I know they're at home, but this is pretty much 1-2-3 Cancun for this squad. I think we're looking at another sweep.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with the Pelicans in this spot. So you got a couple ways of looking at where you look at the hockey, and you got Tampa's best effort against Florida, avoiding the sweep. You got the Islanders, a double overtime best effort, hung tight, extended the game, and win. It's hard to get the sweep. But then you see Minnesota, who was the better team pretty much every minute of that entire series. They were just better. I feel like OC is that much better. They got their call in game one. The Pelicans had their shot and couldn't get it done. Now, is this a discount or is this a short line to get you, to go, oh, why is this line only 4.5? I don't know. Sometimes it's hip to be square. Lay it with a road favorite. You get the better team. If you think the Pelicans can win, you're probably better off taking them on the money line. But, yeah, I think this series is over tonight.
I mentioned earlier that I was really kind of taken aback by Minnesota. I know the Timberwolves had a great regular season, but I didn't think they were necessarily experienced or ready enough for the moment. That wasn't to say they couldn't beat Phoenix. I did like Phoenix to win the series, but I never would have envisioned even a Minnesota win a sweep. I never would have seen that coming against that Suns team. And I'm less surprised by what feels like an inevitable sweep by the Thunder against the Pelicans, in part because of the Zion injury. But I'm just kind of looking at the big picture of it all, Dave, and saying, okay, can anyone in this conference put up a real fight, a genuine fight against Jokic and the Denver Nuggets? What do you think?
Oh, without a doubt. I was out about all weekend and scoping around prices in the books, talking behind the counter, and all the prices have been adjusted on both OKC and Minnesota, only down. And prior to the Lakers beating the Nuggets on Saturday, the Nuggets price has gone up back to what it was before the series started. So now you have movement. You have that thought, just like you're doing exactly the same thing that guys in books are doing, going, who can beat the Nuggets? And they got to go to Denver and win a game. Now, I didn't think Phoenix was going to win a game. I didn't think it was going to be a sweep. I thought 5, max 6. Minnesota can extend a series against Denver. There's no question. Win games 3 and 4. Would it totally surprise me to see them win a road game? I think it would be tough in 1 and 2. But can they do it? Of course. And then if they do, that series price flips a lot. If Minnesota gets control of the series with home court, wow, that's one of those situations we'd be sitting in the risk room going, all right, how much do we move this? Because what are people going to bet? Denver tonight, 7. It's going to be a lot less than that in game 1 at home against Minnesota.
We're going to talk more about that Nuggets and Lakers game coming up here on the other side, because I'm curious if Dave thinks that this series is even going to continue after tonight. Is LeBron going to put on a show? There were rumors earlier, and take them for what they're worth. Kari Champion, however you pronounce it, she tweeted out that she's been told by a reliable source this is going to be LeBron James' last game in the purple and gold. Of course, that presumes a loss. Is he moving on? What does all of this look like tonight against the Denver Nuggets? We'll explore when we come back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Drysdale could easily plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit, and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Back with Dave Sharapan, Adam Kaufman. We have the Celtics out to an early lead. It's not a dominating lead, but it's an early lead, 15-12 in Miami. Still about 7 minutes to go in the opening quarter. So if you played the over in this one, you're off to a good start early. But we were just alluding to this late game tonight, which to me is the most interesting game, Dave, as far as just, all right, which way is it going to go? And that is the Nuggets and the Lakers. I would have expected the Nuggets to complete the sweep the other night. And unfortunately, the Lakers in that second half, they led at halftime, whatever. They led at halftime of every game. But they just didn't go away in the second half. The Nuggets could not overcome Jamal Murray, a question mark going into this one. So we'll see what he looks like if he's out there. If he's not out there, or if he's not even close to himself, then sure, you have to give LA a shot. And I already mentioned earlier, I like the over on LeBron's points because even if LA goes down, I don't think he goes down quietly. But ultimately, we're just postponing the inevitable. Denver's going to win this series. It's just a function of how long it takes.
Well, I think that's why those Minnesota futures have to be adjusted, because if the Lakers win tonight and extend the series, I mean, the way the NBA plays out, we're talking another week and an extra trip and a lot of things I think you have to factor into the equation. I didn't know Murray this morning was questionable, and I'm watching the number now, and it's coming down. And here in Vegas, I got my odds screen. 3 places have already moved to 6.5. You got one moot line back there, 6.5. It's coming down. So that doesn't mean that the Lakers are going to win. I'm just that he's now unlikely to play just based on me sitting there watching the lines move. So we shall see. Now, we don't know, is he 100%? I have no idea. I think Denver wins this game tonight. I think they win the series tonight, whether they cover the spread or not. I mean, they haven't covered a first half yet to play.
No.
And I'm sure, when I go on with Ranieri next, we're going to talk about it as it gets close to tip-off time. It'll be Lakers first half again. That's just kind of rinse and repeat. And the Lakers play them tough in the first quarter, have had a lead at halftime, all 4 games. Probably going to be the same situation or very, very close. Adam, you think the game plays to the over or to the under? Because the steam has come over. And I think if it's an over game, I don't think that bodes well for the Lakers.
That's a good question. We're sitting at 217, slightly skewed to the over as far as, like you said, it's getting steamed up a little bit. I'd be inclined to go over. It's tough. It's probably a stay away spot for me. I'd rather get involved in the prop market in this one, or even betting Denver minus 6.5, quite frankly. But if I had to bet a total side, I would ultimately go over, because I just don't think this is going to be a defensive struggle. I think that Denver's going to do pretty much whatever it wants to do, but LA is going to hang around as well. So, if you're presuming a close game and not just a total blowout, like that's where I start to get worried about totals. It's not a super high total either. It leans toward the higher side. It's not like it's 205 or something, but I think that if we get a respectable game, a game that's, floating around single digits in the fourth quarter, and there's a lot of back and forth, I think that takes you to the over, because you get free throws at the end.
Right. Yeah, and both teams will make free throws. So that's another thing that I think you don't have to worry about as far as the handicap. I'm leaning under. I think it is. If it's a close game, it's towards the under. I don't think it bodes well for the Lakers to get in a shootout and try to run with the Lakers, or try to run with the Nuggets, I mean. But if Murray's not in the game,
Right.
it's going to be, I dare I say, a Jokic show. Like his props over, triple-double, yes, probably. Rebounds over. That's been kind of one of those things that you just kind of bet if you're betting props. So I don't know. I can't wait. I've already texted two guys and said, what's your price on Denver and Minnesota? I'm already this is what I did in the book. I was trying to stay a step ahead. What are you thinking? What's the number going to be? I'm not discounting the Lakers, but I'm just saying, I'm not really thinking they're going to win. It's a small price. If Denver loses tonight, they're still favored on the road in Game 6. What does that say?
There in your backyard, you got the Golden Knights taking on the Dallas Stars tonight. We've had some split opinions on this show so far between who's going with who. Like I happen to like Vegas. Brady, who was just on before you, as much as he would like as a fan to see the Golden Knights win, he's invested in Dallas in this game. Which way do you see it playing out?
Well, I'm dressed like Mike Madonna, Adam. I got my Stars hat and I got my old school Stars jersey on.
It looks good. It does.
Yeah, it's a great jersey. No, this is one of those ones that, like, every book in town, this is like having an old school bookie, right? You sit here and you watch people driving around town. Everybody got the flags. Everybody got the jerseys, the license plates. Everybody's rooting for the Golden Knights. The Stars were a much better team on Saturday. That game was unbelievable. Logan Thompson had the game of his life, and they still lost. I think that picked up a little bit of momentum for Dallas. If Vegas scores first, they got a really good shot at winning this game. If they don't score first, asking them to come back again from a multiple goal deficit, I think it's a wrap. If the Stars get up a couple goals and force the Knights to press and open up, they're just faster. They were faster on Saturday. They've been a better team a lot of the series during the game. They just were unable to score. So right now I'm leaning Dallas. I think it's a dead under game. I think we see an unbelievable playoff game type, just not a Stanley Cup final game, obviously, but a level of that intensity, because Dallas loses, series is over. They're not winning 3 in a row. They're not winning 3 in a row. Down 3-1. So you get that desperation. I'm leaning Stars.
Dave, less than 30 seconds left with you. You have a favorite play on the diamond tonight?
How about a home run prop? I know it's not Digger
Sure.
Tuesday, but Bryce Harper has 7 homers, 14 RBIs, and 10 career games against Anaheim. There you go. Phillies win.
All right.
Harper homers.
Just scratching the surface. Dave Sharapan's going to join Joe Ranieri coming up after this show. Dave, thanks so much, buddy.
See you, Adam.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily plus money get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit, and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Well, we've had a lot of fun here on this show. Game Time Decisions, of course, comes your way Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 Eastern Time. I will be back with you tomorrow in place of Kevin Walsh. Looking forward to it. Another great show to recap some of what we see tonight and, of course, preview what is to come tomorrow. But tonight is just getting started. Celtics out to a big lead in Miami. There's some runs coming all over the place, obviously, across the diamond. Some early scoring there for Tampa in that game against the Panthers, and games still in front of us, including on the hardwood, the Nuggets and the Lakers. Now, what's the right way to bet this one? There are so many different ways. We've been talking about it throughout the show, but a parlay, a same-game parlay. We always want to cash the big ticket, don't we? Well, Davis Maddock has an idea on how you should be betting this game. So let's find out what his same-game parlay looks like for Game 4 between Denver and Los Angeles.
All right, guys, we are wrapping up the first round of the NBA playoffs, and that's where our same-game parlay is coming from tonight. The Los Angeles Lakers traveling to play at the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are going to end this one. Good for them. They didn't get swept. They didn't get beat 11 times in a row. We're taking the Nuggets money line. We're going to add on Nikola Jokic to score 30 or more points in this game, Jokic to record 10 or more assists, and Jokic to record 10 or more rebounds. I think we saw pretty clearly in Game 4 when Jamal Murray's not having a good night, when Aaron Gordon's not having a good night. Jokic will dig deep and just say, all right, fellas, give me the ball. I will do this. I will try and bail us out. I think they close it out here. They get a little bit of rest over the next week, and they move on. This same game parlay gives us plus 381 odds. Nuggets money line, Jokic to score 30 or more points, record 10 or more assists, and 10 or more rebounds. Good luck tonight, everybody.
A lot of great stuff there from Davis Maddock, and hopefully you were taking notes. You can put that same game parlay together for later. I did want to make a correction. So I mentioned the early lead for Tampa. You know, when I was talking about that game, we saw the goal come across the board, apparently reviewed and waved off. And so at the end of one period, there is no score between Tampa Bay and Florida. And so long way to go in that one. You feel a little bit better if you're on the Florida side like me, especially if you've got them on the 60-minute money line. I'd hate to see a team have to come from behind. So, I want to thank all of our guests, obviously, that have participated in the show. We had George Kurtz, Joe Madden, Mark Zinno. We had Brady Cannon, Dave Sharapan, who's coming up with Joe Ranieri after this show for the next few hours to take you through the night slate, and just a slew of games that are coming your way across all sports. Some of the spots that I really like, we have talked about it. One, I was on the Celtics, minus 10.5 coming into this one. Derek White has gone nuclear so far to start off this game. In fact, just pulling up the box score, Boston is up by 15 right now. It's 29-14. Derek White has 16 points. He has more than half of Boston's points. I bet this game in a number of different ways. I already know that I've got an early loss on one of them because I had Derek White under 2.5 3-pointers. He has hit 4 in the opening quarter. Derek White has 4 3-pointers already. It is just get out of the way. Give Derek White the ball and get out of the way for the Boston Celtics. But this is why we talk about Boston as being so incredibly deep and versatile. Doesn't have to be Tatum, doesn't have to be Brown, doesn't have to be Porzingis, doesn't even have to be, Drew Holiday, who obviously is probably your fifth option. It's number 4 right now. It's Derek White, who is just running running super hot in this one so far. Can it continue? Can he get himself up to 30 or something like that? May want to take a look at some of those live totals and at least have that in consideration. I like the Thunder -4.5 tonight. Was talking about that extensively during the show. That is one of my best bets here for the evening, and one I have one of my bigger bets here personally tonight. I just think New Orleans is dead. The Pelicans have moved on. They have lost interest, and the Thunder are feeling it, absolutely feeling themselves, and the way that they are playing right now, it's going to continue on into the next round. We'll see if this plucky, spunky, youngest group in the field can continue on off the heels of Mark Daigneault getting Coach of the Year in the NBA. That last game in the NBA, it's a tough one. I do think the Nuggets will close it out, but I do not think it's going to be easy. I think LeBron clears that points over. Don't be surprised if he gets to 30 tonight, because, again, if the Lakers go down, I still don't think LeBron is going to go down quietly. The thing that would surprise me the most is a Nuggets blowout. LeBron only has like 18 points. That would absolutely shock me. Want to thank everyone who was part of the show, all the people who were guests as mentioned, plus Sam and Chris, Bobby, AJ. I'm Adam Kaufman. Talk to you again tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern. Sharapan and Ranieri on the way.